Formé en 1989 sous le nom de Morbid God par Fernando Ribeiro et João Pedro et deux autres musiciens, le groupe officiait initialement dans le registre black metal. Leur style musical va évoluer ensuite au fur et à mesure et en 1992, le groupe est rebaptisé sous son nom actuel, Moonspell. Votre dernier et 10e album, bonsoir déjà pour commencer.
Bonsoir.
Votre dernier et 10e album, Extinct, est un mélange de genres, de metal, du death, du black, du thrash, du heavy, du sympho, de l'indus et même du pop metal sur The Last of Us. C'est une volonté particulière pour vous faire plaisir, ou ça représente votre vision testamentaire, on va dire, de l'extinction proche du métal?
So, welcome. Here, your 10th and last LP, Extinct, is a melting pot of metal genres like death metal, black metal, heavy metal, symphonic metal, industrial metal, even pop metal. Is it linked to the will to compose as you wish, regardless of judgments, or is it a testimony for metal's near extinction?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Too. I don't think metal is under any danger of extinction. There's many good bands and even old bands making great new albums like Maiden or Megadeth or Anthrax and a lot of other more recent bands. As far as Moonspell goes, we just like to write our stuff, our material in a private way, try to be as original as possible, and that melange that you were speaking about has to do also with the fact that we were born as a band in the 90s, and everyone was very much into mixing stuff, gothic with metal, folk with metal. You know, the common element was always metal, but there's always something new, putting another dimension into metal, and we always did that with no kinds of borders. We always try to have this avant-garde spirit as well. That for us it means a lot to the metal genre as well. You know, not to make the meat and potatoes, but also to expand in trying some new stuff.
Alors donc, non, malgré tout, le métal pour Fernando n'est pas du tout en danger, puisqu'il y a des tonnes de groupes qui produisent des tonnes de bonnes choses, même des anciens qui refont des bons albums comme Maiden, Megadeth, Anthrax, tout ça. C'était plus une volonté d'écrire un peu comme il le souhaitait, avec des bases différentes, folk, tout ça, mais évidemment la ligne principale, le fil rouge, c'était le métal, et c'était une référence évidemment aux années 90, mais aussi accessoirement créer quelque chose de nouveau, quelque chose de plus construit de ce point de vue.
Quels sont les sujets abordés d'ailleurs sur cet album qui sert de base à cette tournée? Est-ce que vous pouvez nous le présenter en quelques mots?
Which thing do you deal with on this new album, and can you introduce it to us?
Yes, it's called Extinct. It was out a little bit over 1 year, ago. Yeah, time flew. We were always on the road since March last year, and I think there's two main lines in the album as far as the lyrics go. It's the personal extinction of things as a metaphor for things that we grew up with and that are not there anymore. It can be anything, you know. It can be a person, it can be a drink, it can be a place as well that was important for you, and now it's never to return. It's just a memory that keeps it together with you. And also, when we started writing the album, we thought that Extinct was such a larger thing, such a larger event, in a much more giant scale than our own small lives. And but in the end, things have to do with each other. You know, there's a lot of emotion going, not only when someone from your life disappears, but also when a species goes away. And we talk a lot with scientists that fight against extinction, and for them it was not science, it was emotion as well. It was like art as well, trying to save animals. And I think that that really came together with the first idea.
Alors donc il y a deux lignes conductrices principales pour cet album. Évidemment qu'il y a une espèce de métaphore, une double métaphore sur à la fois l'extinction au sens humain du terme, c'est-à-dire le fait de grandir, donc de perdre des éléments de mémoire, une vie qui s'efface, ce genre de choses. Mais en même temps, c'est abordé aussi au sens large, avec une plus large échelle, c'est-à-dire par exemple l'extinction d'espèces animales ou des trucs qu'il faut conserver comme l'art au sens strict du terme.
Votre dernier album, on le disait, est très diversifié, loin des albums du début comme Irreligious et Sin Pecado, très ancré dans du dark goth, atmosphérique metal. Pourtant, une chose semble ne pas avoir changé, c'est celle d'incruster des éléments de musique ethnique et de la musique notamment orientale, folklorique. D'où vous vient ce goût pour cette musique-là?
As said before, Extinct is really various, far from Irreligious or Sin Pecado, and their dark goth atmospheric metal. But one thing remains unchanged. You were to insert ethnic and folk music, especially Oriental music. Where does this love for this kind of music come from?
I think from Portuguese traditional music, our traditional music, not only fado but folklore as well, has a little bit of, Orient, has a little bit of Africa, has a little bit of Europe as well. So it's a country that, for its history and its culture, was always like a point in Europe, in South Europe, that contacted in a different way with all the different cultures, because we were there, we're still there, with the sea and Spain to the east and Atlantic to the west, and our music and our roots are made of many things. And in Portugal, there was a big tradition and a big Arabic community up to from 700 up to the 11th century when Portugal started existing in a way. And you can still find a lot of stuff in our music. Even the Portuguese guitar has this melancholy. So we like to do that. That's a little bit the fact that we are from Portugal. It's a little bit the difference as well that our band can make, and we love this kind of stuff musically. Everybody now in metal bands, they all have the Western Wagner arrangements, but we wanted a little bit more 1000 Nights, than Valkyria. We wanted something a little bit more subtle. I think it has more to do with our music.
Alors, en fait, cette influence ou moins cette sensation, ce ressenti de musique orientale, en fait, c'est surtout lié au fait que la musique qui les influence le plus, logiquement, est la musique portugaise, puisqu'ils sont portugais eux-mêmes, et que c'est pas seulement le fado. Le Portugal a été un pays qui a été très longtemps sous influence arabe, donc forcément, il y a un mélange de culture entre la culture européenne, la culture arabe, une grande partie de la culture africaine. Eux-mêmes, géographiquement, sont placés évidemment aux frontières, aux antipodes de toute la région européenne. Donc cette tradition arabe et cette tradition avec association orientale existent depuis plus de 700 ans. On va pas refaire un cours d'histoire, mais malgré tout Moonspell essaie de retraduire en même temps la mélancolie aussi de cette musique, ce qui va là, et pas forcément aborder un aspect épique très wagnérien comme pourraient le faire beaucoup d'autres groupes européens.
Vous avez une grosse notoriété au Portugal, vous êtes même des sommités, on peut le dire, au point que la pochette de votre premier album, Wolf Earth, apparaît sur une collection de timbres dans la série Les disques et moments les plus importants du Portugal. Comment recevez-vous, avez-vous reçu cette reconnaissance-là, et qu'est-ce que ça fait d'être cité comme le groupe de référence du Portugal sur la scène métal?
You're so famous in Portugal that the artwork of Wolf Heart, your first LP, was taken to print a collection of stamps titled The Most Significant Rock Moments and Records from Portugal. How did you receive this recognition? How does it feel to be considered as the Portuguese metal band?
Well, it's a fight every day, because Portugal didn't have a big tradition on rock or metal. Not because there wasn't bands, there was always bands and fans, but our media there was never that much into rock and roll, But some people are, and for instance, the Portuguese Post, the postal service, they had a radio person that is very famous in Portugal, that was selecting the most important moments, and he said, we have to have Wolfart because it's the first album of Moonspell, and it's an album that not only here in Portugal but everywhere else is a classic. So our stamp was the €2 stamp that you can stamp, you can post stuff for outside, not only for Portugal. I think that was a really good recognition. But as I say, it's always a fight. I don't know. I come to France, or I go to Scandinavia, or to Germany, and it seems like even though pop music is popular and rap music is popular, there's a place for metal as well. There's many things happening, and in Portugal sometimes it's hard, but with Moonspell things have changed a little bit because of what our fans, that go massively to our shows and buy our records, they changed the reality for a metal band. And even the other day, we got the best album of the year by the Portuguese SACEM, SPA, and they are very conservative, and I was very amazed that they do that. But I think that's quite important. It's not what we formed the band for, to be awarded, but especially coming from Portugal, any recognition is good in our own country. Yeah.
Alors donc, oui, c'est un plaisir de recevoir cette reconnaissance, mais comme le dit Fernando, c'est un combat de tous les jours, c'est-à-dire que le Portugal, on pourrait dire un petit peu pareil pour la France d'ailleurs, n'est pas forcément un pays de culture métal, et en fait, cette reconnaissance est liée au fait que Wolfart a été le premier album qui a eu une reconnaissance au-delà même des frontières du Portugal, c'est-à-dire internationale. Donc forcément cette pochette va apparaître sur les timbres de 2 € si j'ai bien compris, et ce qui fait que en fait cette reconnaissance est apparue, c'est surtout le soutien des fans, parce que vraiment c'est les fans qui vont au concert, qui achètent les CD, qui font d'ailleurs que leur dernier album a atteint une gratification donc d'assez haut niveau aussi, au point que ça a été reconnu par l'équivalent de notre SACEM en France.
Vous avez commencé par une esthétique black metal pour ensuite vous faire connaître dans un milieu plus dark, atmo. Quels groupes vous ont influencé, voire poussé à changer d'esthétique?
You began with black metal aesthetics, then turned to something much dark atmospherics. Which band did influence your music or even make you change of style?
Well, at first we were heavily into more underground bands, and we still are, like Bathory and Celtic Frost and King Diamond. And then we discovered also the dark wave and the gothic with bands like Sisters of Mercy, Fields of Nephilim, Bauhaus. And but I think the band that really changed our minds when we listened to it, and that we went as far as changing our music as well, was Typo Negative from Brooklyn, New York, because I think they combined everything, the hardcore metal and the gothic elegance and romanticism. And when we listened to it with Bloody Kisses first, they had already another album, So Deep and Hard, but Bloody Kisses was the one that made it for us. And it was quite a dream, because 2 years after that we listened to that album, we were touring with them, all around Europe. And they were releasing October Rust, another great album. And it was great to meet your heroes and people that actually influence you so much that you wanted to be like them,
Alors donc, en effet, le groupe a commencé par des influences un petit peu plus brutales que ce qu'ils font maintenant, c'est-à-dire du Bathory, Celtic Frost, tout ça. Puis ils ont ensuite découvert Bauhaus et toute la dark wave. Mais malgré tout, le groupe qui a eu un impact premier sur le fait qu'ils veuillent aller dans cette branche-là, c'est Typo Negative et surtout l'album Bloody Kisses. La reconnaissance entre guillemets malgré tout et le hasard fait que 2 ans plus tard, ils ont joué justement avec Peter Steele et Typo Negative.
Vous avez fondé un side project également, Démonarque, qui n'a qu'un seul album, Hermeticum, composé sur des textes que vous avez écrits à l'âge de 14-16 ans. Est-ce que vous envisagez de faire revivre ce projet un jour?
So inside of Moonspell, you still play the black metal in a side project called Démonarque, which with only one album, Hermeticum, composed on lyrics that you have written when you were 14.
14. 15. Yeah.
Do you intend to resurrect this project one day?
Well, I never knew that this project would be something that people wanted the continuation, I always thought that it was this album, it was this moment, and that was it. But of course, it came in a time also where the Moonspell was doing different stuff, and it came in a time that also the internet was blossoming, and people got to get into that album a lot. I've been in a lot of other projects, black metal, fado. I've been in a fado project in Portugal. Sometimes I do stuff with other bands, and it's just because I like it. It's sometimes I think for me, of course, Moonspell is more than enough. But sometimes I have other parts of me that want to do a little bit something else. But now time is a big issue. I mean, we tour a lot. I have 4-year-old son, and the family and things have changed in 20 years. So I try to focus all my energy into Moonspell. But you never know. I still have a lot of ideas. So in the future, why not? But let's see.
Alors donc, lui-même n'imaginait pas qu'au final, ce groupe des Monarques, ce side project, pourrait avoir un tel impact, puisqu'on en parle beaucoup, et que en fait, il est né un peu avec le développement d'Internet et l'essor d'Internet. Et même si Fernando a beaucoup d'idées en parallèle, participer à divers trucs de black metal, fado, pourquoi pas, c'est surtout le temps qui lui manque, parce que évidemment, il y a toutes les tournées avec Moonspell, le fait aussi qu'il a un enfant de 4 ans, mais pourquoi pas?
Encore deux questions. D'où vous est venue cette idée du double album Alpha Noir, Omega White, l'un très violent, l'autre planant?
So let's come back to Moonspell. Why did you have this idea of making the double album Alpha Noir of Omega White, one part really violent and the other cooler?
It was just a concept, we since Memorial and Night Eternal, the albums that have preceded Alpha Noir, Omega White, we were quite becoming a brutal, fast band. Still with the gothic, but with a lot of death metal, thrash metal influences, a lot of guitars. And we kind of were missing a more melodic, elaborated, sophisticated part. But we still had a lot of energy for one album. So we decided, instead of going one path or doing it like we do, like Extinct, having both natures in one, we decided we had never made the double album before, and we decided it was definitely a good time back then to concentrate in doing a very aggressive album, very in your face, and then have the time, to compose something a little bit more melodic. And I think that was quite a good laboratory for Extinct as well. The way that we made so many songs, it was a double conceptual album with the dark side and a hopeful side, the side that you go to the battle and the side that you are in your room, in a way. And it was very enjoyable. Unfortunately, we never got to play enough of Omega White live, but it's still on the plans, maybe to do a couple of shows just playing those songs. I think that should be interesting in a way.
Alors donc en fait, le Alpha Noir Omega White, c'est un concept album, et en fait l'évolution qu'ils prenaient petit à petit vers quelque chose de très violent, ils avaient envie de revenir un peu à quelque chose de plus mélodique, un peu plus tourné vers ce qu'ils faisaient au départ. Donc c'était quelque chose de nouveau pour eux de faire justement un double album. C'est quelque chose qu'ils n'avaient pas encore fait dans leur carrière, et c'est un peu la genèse de Extinct, puisque on retrouve tous les éléments qui vont faire Moonspell, mais sur deux CD différents, le côté obscur, le côté lumineux, ce genre de choses. Voilà.
Peut-être alors une dernière question. Fernando, vous avez publié un recueil de poèmes intitulé Les blessures essentielles. Quels poètes vous influencent ou ont eu une influence sur vous, même si on sait qu'Opium fait référence à un poème d'Álvaro de Campos, derrière lequel se cache Fernando Pessoa. On imagine que le titre en français, Les blessures essentielles, laisse penser que Baudelaire est un de vos poètes préférés.
So you had your poetry book Les blessures essentielles published. The title is in French. Which poets did have an influence on your work, even though Opium we know is a reference to Álvaro Campos, the eternal muse of Fernando Pessoa. We can imagine that Baudelaire could have an impact on you too.
He has a lot of impact. All the French poetry, Baudelaire on top, but also Verlaine. For instance, Paul Éluard, I really like it as well. And, in the 70s, French poetry was a big thing in Portugal. And a lot of poets were even especially the contemporary, were like stars in Portugal. Everybody in Portugal from a certain age have read Rambo and stuff like that. So I wasn't an exception, and that's my kind of sick romanticism kind of poetry that I like and that I write myself. Not only that book, but I already have 3 poetry books. And I'm already released it in Portugal and in Brazil, and I'm translating it into English first, so then I can have it in French, etc. But my very favorite poet is Spanish. He's called Justo Jorge Padrón. And I just said the name because everybody should definitely read it. I mean, French poetry is probably the best and the most known in the world, but there's a lot of poetry coming from everywhere, from Portugal even. The best thing we have is poetry and some food and bacalhau. And the thing is that that poet is amazing and a huge influence for me, not only for my books but also in some of the Moonspell lyrics.
Alors oui, évidemment, on a tapé dans le mille, il y a du Baudelaire, évidemment, de tonnes de points de vue, mais aussi du Verlaine, du Éluard, du Rimbaud. C'est-à-dire que dans les années 70, les poètes étaient un peu considérés, on va dire, comme des stars pour eux. Il fallait absolument avoir lu de la poésie. Alors, Fernando dit que d'abord, donc, il a commencé par les textes en anglais, la poésie française, mais pour lui, le poète absolu est un poète espagnol qui s'appelle Padrón, qui a eu donc une énorme influence à la fois sur lui, son écriture, mais aussi sur Moonspell et les textes de Moonspell par la suite.
Donc dans le livre, mais aussi dans les lyrics du groupe. Très bien. Merci beaucoup, Fernando, d'être venu répondre à ces quelques questions. Merci à vous.